So I'm going to talk about Humane Interface, and one of the questions, of course, the first question is, why care? Why care about interface? And then, of course, next question is, why care about a humane interface? What has that got to do with anything? The reason is very simple, and that is, when you start using an application, when you start using a product of any kind, the first impression, and often a lasting impression you get, is through the interface, because the interface is through which you start to interact with an application. And if the interface is not going to convince you, it's going to be very difficult to stay with the application and benefit from it. And so interfaces can either break or make a user's experience, so it's important for us to build very good interfaces. But we have all seen our share of interfaces and applications that just frustrate us. And so there are certain things we can learn to avoid, and also certain things we can learn to do better. So the first question is, what makes a good interface? And the answer is, it is not a sexy interface. Because oftentimes we would get convinced at interfaces that are flashy, and a lot of times that's like an infatuation. It doesn't stay with you. Because the minute you start using the application, the impressions you're going to be left with is going to be the one that stays with you. So what is it then? So I'm going to outline a few things that we need to think about, and all of those really contribute towards this one thing, which is user experience. What is the experience of the user? How do they feel using your product? And how can you help it and improve it? That's the goal. So a great application is an application that lets the user get his or her job done. And I think that is the most fundamental thing we need to keep in mind. Does it help you to get your work done? And I would say a great application is one which you totally forget once you start using it. You don't even realize you're using it. Why? Because you're so focused on what you want to do, the application quietly has slid away in the background. And you focus on getting your work done, and then you leave. A worst application is the one that reminds you every 2 minutes that you are using it, that stands in your way, irritates you, and you're complaining and cussing while you're using the application. So a great application just stays away, stays out of your way. So how do we do that? And there are a certain number of things we could do to make the application very useful and give a good experience. The first and foremost is reliability. No matter what effort you put in, if your application is not reliable, then the users are not going to like it. And a lot of us who have the option, and everyone does actually, by the way, leave. We don't use those interfaces. We don't use those applications because they're not reliable. And so the first and foremost, the application has to be reliable. If it's not reliable, it's not much fun for the user. The second thing I would say is it's got to be fast. Speed is extremely important. If the application is slow and starts spinning the wheel, you leave, you go away, you do other things. And you're going to go look for other applications that will get your work done. So speed is extremely important. Fastness is important. The application has to be simple. When you start using it, it should get you quickly and very easily to exactly what you want to do. If the application is going to ask you to do all kinds of stupid things, you're going to wonder why you're doing all of that to get your work done. And there's so much complexity that normally gets built up, and you wonder, why do I have to go through these many steps to get my simple things done? I'll give you an example. I hate IDEs. And the reason I hate IDEs, most of the IDEs, what is the first thing they ask you to do? Create a project. Why am I using an IDE? To write code. What has got to do with creating a project when my goal is to really write code? And that's one of the reasons I tend to use very lightweight editors because when I open the editor, I can start typing my code. Yeah, I may need a project structure, but when I need it, I want to ask for it. I will opt in. Don't force me to do stuff that I don't care to do, right? If you're using Eclipse, for example, or even IntelliJ IDEA for that matter, you double-click on it, and you wait for it to spin up. Then it says, tell me the directory where you want to create the project. Tell me the type of the project you want to create. And you're crying there, damn it, let me write code, right? Why should I waste my time? So it's got to be simple. I should not do anything that I shouldn't be doing. And this is important for us to think as we develop applications. Think about what is it that you definitely directly want to get to and take them very quickly. Then you can fill in other details along the way. The next thing I would say is it's got to be very easy to use. If it's very hard, then people are not going to use it. It's got to be very simple, very easy to use. It's got to provide value. Users, intelligent users, are not going to use your product if you do stuff that's of no value to them. They may stop at it and they would look at it, they will chuckle and say, that's stupid. And then they would walk away, right? It's got to provide value. Otherwise, they're not going to use it. So always keep thinking, am I doing something that's valuable to the users? How quickly can I get to that? And the last thing I would say here, please don't annoy the users. Don't distract them. Keep their focus on what they need to do. And you may say, well, isn't that obvious? Well, for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to show you examples of where it's not obvious. All right? So, make it reliable. An unreliable application really spoils the user's experience. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this. You all know what this is, right? This is one of the best products ever, at least in the recent times. Would you agree? Everybody wants to have one. But then what happened? The worst product ever. I hate my iPhone these days because every time I click on the mail program, it crashes half the time, and the other half the time, it tells me no sender messages. What's all that? So my mail program is completely unusable on the iPhone, and one of the things I want to do as soon as my plane lands, I want to click and see who has sent me mail. Now I can't do it because it annoys me. And this is totally unreliable. So what has happened? And you know what's scary? Who makes this? The same company that made that wonderful product. And their own application has turned this into a very sour experience. And so if you come and ask me, what do you think of iPhone? Well, it used to be a time nobody would say, I like iPhone. They would say, I love iPhone. Now I can't say that anymore. I say, well, it doesn't suck as much as other things. That's my definition now, right? So it's important to make things reliable. Otherwise, we tend to kind of say, yeah, that was nice, fancy tool, but if I really have to get my work done, I can't use that anymore. I'm going to go use other things that will let me get my work done. So I'm opening my laptop, and the airplane, they say, do not use other electronic equipment. Okay, fine. And I'm using my laptop to check my email because I got to get my work done. The second thing I would say is don't annoy the users. Now you may say, why would anybody annoy the users? I heard this from MIT professor, but I'll share with you here. You come to work in the morning, and you have gone through a traffic nightmare. You waded through the traffic on the streets. You come to the office, and you just sit down, and you're so irritated already because you had to go through the traffic to get there. And you're thinking about getting the work done. And as you sit down, you see this guy knock on the door and disappears. Right? You're like, what? I don't know who it is. Fine. You get back to work. And then he comes to you and says, and then he disappears. Now you're getting angry. Who is this guy? Who's distracting me? Right? And then a few minutes later, he comes to you and says, how's it going? And you're like, who are you? Well, you know who I'm talking about, right? It's this guy. Every few minutes, he comes to you and says, what do you think? Right? And when you are really serious to get your work done, what is that? A pure annoyance, right? And we need to think about it. It's such a great idea, but somebody should have said, stop it, stupid. Don't release it. If you want, keep it on your own machine, right? But you don't release it because this is totally an annoyance and it doesn't help you to focus. And a lot of times what happens? You're sitting there to do some real work and this just comes to you and annoys you. That's something to think about. Well, don't distract me. Don't give me stuff I don't care about. I'll give you an example. I want to go search for something on my machine. And when I'm searching for something, what is my mood? I'm not happily saying, I'm going to take the afternoon and search for this stupid file. I am searching because I don't know. I don't remember where this file is. I don't quite remember exactly what the name of the file is, right? And I don't have time. I need to get to this file quickly. How do I know where the file is? So if I ask you to build a search program, how will you improve my user experience? I'll tell you how not to. Putting a dog that wags your tail, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been angry because I'm searching and the dog wags the tail. I'm like, excuse me, I want to know where the damn file is. Get out of my way. And it is there distracting me, and I would much rather have a command line that says, go find, tell me where the file is, and let me not look at anything else. And this is a total distraction from what I need to get to. So yes, these are really cute ideas, but at some point we got to say, sorry, this doesn't help the user. So these certainly are not a humane interface because they distract the user and they annoy the user. And like I said, these have been around for quite a while. And when you look at these, you never look at these as, whoa, this is cool. You say, oh man, that sucks. I better not. So, this is what I learn in life. I learn a lot from people. But there are two things I learned from people. From some set of people, I learned what to do. And from some set of people, I learned what not to do. And these are the things that we should learn from what not to do. So these can be still valuable to us, right? So help the user focus on what they need to do and don't distract the user from their primary purpose so they can get the work done. Because the application that I go to time and again are the applications that let me get my work done. And I leave and go work on other things I need to. I don't want a relationship with an application. I want to get my work done with it, right? That's important. So what's the application that you use the most? Tell me. What was that? Google. Google is the one that I use the most. Yes, I'm with you on it. Why? Because I use my brain every day. I think. I learn continuously. So the most used application is Google. Have you looked at Google? You go to Google and you see that. The most popular application in the world is a text box. I cried when I realized it. And the guy who wrote it, pure courage. I won't mention names of other websites, but you know what those are. You go to them and they want to tell you who is winning the politics today. And I say, excuse me, I came to search for something. You completely distracted me. And now I clicked on links and I'm reading some nonsense that I don't care about. You have completely distracted me. I come to Google and it says, tell me what you want to do. I'm not going to show you anything else. I'm not going to distract you, right? I'll get you directly to what you want in the simplest way possible. I will bet you this design is incredibly difficult. The guys who did this are genius because they said, we will not pollute. We will not distract the user. We will not give them even the minor thing that is of no consequence to them. I'm going to keep it extremely simple. I would say this is the beauty, this is the elegance of the design if you want to know what a good design is. If you want to know what a humane interface is, this is not sexy at all. This is boring. What is the good news about being boring? I won't spend time on it. I would be doing my real work. And I come back and say, and time and again, when I need information, where do I go? I go to Google. Why? Because they get me to what I need to do right away. And that is hard. Look at most of the search engines out there. What do they do? Searching is the smallest thing. In fact, you look around. Is there a search facility somewhere here? And in the meantime, they've sold you so many other things that is not of any use to you. So this is hard. This is difficult to do. So this comes to what's called the KISS principle. KISS principle says, keep it simple, stupid. And that's exactly what Google did. It kept it extremely simple and stupid, right? That is the key. Keep it simple. Simple things must be simple. Complex things should be no more complicated than getting your work done. That's very important. So problem with products is not their capability, but one of imposed complexity beyond the need. This is what I was telling you earlier. When I go to an IDE, I want an IDE to get me directly to write code, not dance around with other things I don't care about, right? That's the key. And it takes a certain amount of effort to think like that and say, how can I get my users directly to what they need to do, rather than distracting and taking them around. How do you find a menu on your computer? Well, oftentimes you click on a menu, and then you start looking for it, right? Now, if you're new to a product, do you know where that menu item is going to be? Oftentimes you don't. Or even worse, if it's a product you have not used in a while, or you use 20 different products, it's hard to remember where every menu is. So what do most of us do? We say, let me find out. And then you keep clicking on it, drop down. Oh, it's not here, it's not there. You know what's even worse? Are applications that change the menu around based on your last usage. Now you don't have a clue. And you call somebody and say, where is this? They say, go look over there. Yeah, I am looking over there. It's not there. Look again. It's hard. Well, let me show you an example here. I want to know, I'm here on Keynote. I want to use instance alpha, which is to change pictures a little bit. So notice I'm going to help. Right here in help, I type instant alpha, and it tells me where in the menu instant alpha is located. Well, no, I don't want that. I want to print. Okay, fine. I'm going to say print over here, and it tells me exactly where print is located. Now, you know the quickest way to search something is to issue the query. Not to click through 7 menus. That's slow. Here is something I would tell you. Go to work and watch the guy who is programming next to you. If this programmer writes code, reaches for the mouse, clicks on File and Save, kill him. There is no reason for his existence. God, we are programmers. Why would you click on File Save? I just strangled them right there. You write code. What do you want to do when you write code? Please don't say compile. Why do you care to compile? Compilation is just a process in between. I write code for what? To run it, to test it. So the way I want to write code is I would type some code, and the next thing, it's running the unit test. Well, I got a compilation error. Who cares I have a compilation error? It doesn't matter whether it's a compilation error or a test error. I don't want to waste time. Modern IDEs are smart enough to know that your file has been changed, so it will know to save the file, it will know to compile the code, and it will know to run. Why do you take the intermediate step? Oh, file save. Then you say build, rebuild all, and now it's time to take a coffee break. Where's productivity, right? So one of the things you should do as a developer is get angry at yourself, right? And if you do things that are slowing you down, you got to say, I am doing this wrong. And there's only one way you're going to fix it, by changing your way of doing things. So you need to come up with ways to get things done. That is your way of responding to interfaces. So that is extremely important. I never use menus on the Mac. By the way, this is not a feature of Keynote. This is how every application on the Mac works. I never go select menu items. For applications I'm familiar with, I know the shortcuts. But I'm not familiar with every application out there. There are certain applications I use once in a while. What do? I click on help, type the command I want, and there you go, hit the return, and I'm done using the menu. I don't navigate through menus. I'm not going to talk about other products here. That doesn't help looking at more back products. But that's the way I want it to be driven. So this is built at the operating system level so we could be very productive with this and we don't have to waste our time navigating through things. So that makes things very easy. So fastest way is to get to it is the search, and that's what I showed you right there, is you can quickly access things by looking through the menu. The next thing I would tell you is provide value. Smartest people make mistakes. I'll give you an example of this. About 3-4 weeks ago, I landed up in Rhode Island, and I had a drive of about 2 hours. And I'm not kidding with you. I'm sitting in the car, and right in front of me, I see this. And I'm looking at this. It says RPM, the speed at which my car is going to drive. The first question is, why do I care about RPM? Tell me honestly, anybody who drives a car, unless you're a sportsman, do you care to, when you're driving, honey, you're driving too fast. How do you know? Your RPM is 1,000. It's the least useful information for me. I don't care what my RPM is. Honestly, I never look at RPM. And what do I see? A huge display in front of me. I said, fine, I'm not going to get angry at you. Fine. But tell me how much fuel I have. Tell me what the speed is. And I kept staring at this because I don't see it. I was in panic. Okay, I can drive at the same speed as the other cars. But how do I know if I'm running out of gas? What if I'm stuck in some middle of nowhere without any gas? I can't know how much gas is there. There is nothing here. And I'm serious about this. I drive for 30 minutes and I'm very deeply bothered about this. And I tell to myself, this is a nice game, Honda. Where did you hide it? And I keep looking all over and I couldn't find it. And about 30 minutes later, sitting there in one position, I kind of move around, then came the shocker. It's right behind the steering wheel. And with my height, it's hiding right there. Damn you! Why would you put it there? And for the rest of the trip, I had to drive like this. What the heck are you people thinking? This is not design. This is poor quality all over, right? Because why would I want to look over there when my height is blocked by the steering? And you know what? I couldn't move the steering. I gave up. I said, fine, I will make sure I don't rent this again. That is a very sour experience. And no, don't get me wrong. Honda makes beautiful car with very poor interface. So that is something for us to think about. We got to think about putting the value on the user's face. And I don't have a problem if they wanted to put the RPM over there, because I wouldn't care to look at it anyways. But not there. So that is again something to think about. Give me things that are valuable. Give it to me directly. And look at the proportion, by the way. That still bothers me. You can tell me that, right? Why should I see such a big RPM display of information I don't care about? I never would need it. I'm bitter. Okay. I'll talk about an application that failed in so many ways. The very first day the new Bangalore airport opened, I was there, 4:30 in the morning, with my good friend, Naresh Jain. He runs the Agile group in India. And so Naresh said, hey, Venkat, let's go to Mumbai. I want you to give a talk. So early in the morning, 4:30, both of us are at the airport. And hey, this is the first day the airport, new airport is open. We're one of the first customers. And we happily walk in. And we found a nice kiosk where you can check in for your flight. And Naresh is in front of me. And I follow him. And Naresh says, I'm going to check in. And so he tries to check in. And what happened? Well, the first thing that happened was, Naresh has huge nails. And this particular display, I'm not kidding with you, I'll show it in a few minutes, has check boxes the size of an ant. And Naresh is touching the screen, touch screen, he cannot get it. He's trying this, he's trying this. And he was about to bite his nails off. I said, oh dear, you don't lose a nail to check in. Naresh, if you don't mind, can I check you in? Naresh said, yeah, I would like to keep my nails. Why don't you do it? I don't have nails, I can do it for you. So I said, I'll do it. The first thing, I'm trying to check in. So I click on it, it spins its wheel for a few minutes, and it times out. Right? This is the first day at the airport, it times out. And we both are slow learners. We said, let's try again. So we tried again. Then we come to this window. You see my finger size to the checkbox size. And you know what these checkboxes say? Stupid things like, you packed your bag. Your dog did not open your bag. You know, stuff like that. Every one of them is a stupid question. You know, they could have done one thing. They could have put a button up there that said select all, but that would make it too easy. Can you do that? No. So we clicked at each one of these stupid checkboxes. I'm kid you not, I clicked on every one of them. And I'm staring at it, and it's staring at me. I don't have a clue what to do now. And Naresh, what is this? And he's like, I don't know what to do now. I mean, we have checked every checkbox. What do you do? So we both keep staring at it for a few minutes, and suddenly I said, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Way in the corner, there is a very thin scroll bar. I'm not kidding. You slide the scroll bar down, and there's one more page with all those check boxes. And I sit there and click each one of them. And then I select a button, and it said, error, cannot check you in. Naresh and I agreed, if we ever find the team who wrote it, we'll kill them and go to jail. That is disgrace. Then we realized something even worse. I turn around and there is grandma and grandpa in the line. You know, here are two programmers doesn't have a clue what to do. What does grandma and grandpa do? This is disgrace, right? So again, lessons for us to learn. Please don't do this. Yes. The next thing I would tell you is, don't ask. This is so difficult because we tend to forget it. How many times application ask you, I won't mention the product name here because people get very insulted when you mention the product name. So I will not mention the product name. This product allowed you to convert all your projects from one version to the next version. I won't tell you the product name. And I had only about 200 projects to convert. The first project, double click, it opens up and says, would you like to convert? I felt good. Thanks for asking. And it said, select this, select this, select this. Would you like a backup of this, please? Okay, fine. Click. Okay, converted. And the next project, I double click. Would you like to convert this? Yes. Question, would you like a backup? Yes. And about the 200th project I was converting, I was not happy. I'm like, you idiot, why won't you learn? I told you this already so many times. Don't ask me, just do it. I want applications to be intelligent. I wanted to say, hey, look, this is the preference you had before. I'm going to keep it unless you change it. And then get out of my way, get my work done. That is very important. I'll give you an example of this. And this is when, you know what, this is sad actually. When an application does the right thing, you feel shocked. I mean, seriously. I'm like, really? You did that for me? Right? I'll tell you an experience like that. This happened to me not too long ago. This is a product on the Mac called OmniGraffle. I'll give you the story. I was like shocked. I was scared when this happened. I went to their site, bought the product. They said, we'll send you a registration key. You need the key to register. I'm like, sure, no problem. I know the drill. And I double click on my mail program. My mail is here, by the way, sitting right here in front of me. And what is the step you follow right now? You would copy the stupid license key. You would open the product and copy it there and click the button. We do it. We have done it for centuries, right? Or it feels like that. So what did I do? I have the mail program running. I double click on OmniGraffle. It comes up and says, oh, thanks for the registration key. I'm like, oh. Who's watching me? And I uninstalled it. And tried it one more time. I'm like, damn it. You guys are good. And you know what? I was sold. This is going to be a great product. I know it. Because these developers did it for me, didn't ask me. That is user experience, right? Where they say, I don't want you to do stupid things. I don't want you to waste your time if we can do it. You know what? That took effort on the programmers to do it. But they did not want me to waste my time. And I say, you guys rock. You know what to do for me. I'm going to use your product, and the experience has been great. So get one step ahead of the users and do what is needed for them. Don't bully them and say, I'm going to punish you for using my product. Right? That is important. I'll give you a couple of examples of this. I want to use Visual Studio. So what am I going to do in Visual Studio? So here I am. And let's just say, for example, I want to use over here thread. And I want to call thread.sleep. That's what I want to call. So I say thread.sleep. Well, it tells me it doesn't know what a thread is. So I got to tell him what a thread is. So what do I normally do? I go up here. I'll say using system.threading. Imagine for a minute that this was a file with several functions in it. So you are down here. You type thread.sleep. You would go up all the way here to enter it. And when you do that, by the way, you should be complaining. You should be saying, that's stupid. Right? And this happened about 4 or 5 years ago. And I got angry about this. And I'll tell you what I did. I wrote myself a macro. And I said I would not do it. And then I was so happy when they took it on themselves to fix it. So notice what you can do now. In Studio, I think it's been around for a couple of years now, but I'm here, down here, it gives a squiggly. Again, I'm not a mouse person. I say Alt-Shift-F10, hit the button, you are done, right? If you notice, they added that on the top. You don't have to waste your time going up to the top. That, again, is thinking what the programmer needs to do. Don't punish the programmer for using your product. So I was glad to see that being built in. In the same way, I've got an interface here. I wish Studio did this, but it doesn't right now. I've got an interface here. Notice the interface has a method called SumMethod. This is called IntelliJ IDEA. Well, I want to implement a class equals new SumClass, which doesn't exist, by the way. So I come to the Sum class, and I say Alt-Enter in IntelliJ. Hey, create the class for me, please. And notice how smart they are. They put the class name and they put the implements, knowing that you need to implement that interface, and within seconds I'm done. I want the tool to think about what is it that the programmer is doing. Let me do it for them so they can get back to what? Programming. I am not using an IDE to navigate through files. I'm using an IDE to get my programming done. So it's important for us to think about some of these things so we can help the users get their work done. One of the things to think about is stress level. We all are stressed. Anybody here who is not stressed? Everybody here, right? And when you're stressed, what happens? You don't think well. Your cognitive ability is poor. And you got to think about user stress when you are developing applications. Here's an example. This is one thing to think about. Buildings, you're in a room. If somebody suddenly says there's a fire, what are you going to do? I hope you would say run. Where are you going to run? Through the door. So what are you going to do when you run to the door? You're in panic. You're thinking about the fire in the room. You want to get out. So what you're going to do is to go push. It doesn't matter what is said over there. You could say, well, we documented this well. It says pull. Did you see it? Well, there's fire in the room, dude. I'm not going to read that and say, yeah, P-U-L-L. That means pull. This is scientifically proven. When people were in panic, even though it said in bold letters pull, people kept pushing. It doesn't matter. You're not going to think. Because your mind says run because there's fire in the building. So as a person designing a room, you need to think about when are people going to leave the room? What state are they going to be? There are two cases when people run from rooms. When there's fire or there's a bad speaker. Yes. And they run faster when there's a bad speaker than fire. Fire you can deal with, bad speakers no. Okay. So you want to push through and run. So that, again, we need to think about, right? How do we design products? What are the users going to think? You want to minimize their error rate. I'll give an example. And I've done this quite a few times, I know this. You're driving away, your mind is somewhere else, even though you're supposed to be thinking about driving. What if there's a police officer flashing a light at you? You're not going to say, let me see, I'm driving at 60 miles an hour, I'm going to slow down, come to a halt, and have you ever put your car in park when you're at 60 miles an hour? Yes. Or even better, I was with a bunch of friends and their kids. I'm up in a slope, in a waterfall. And there's a huge waterfall on the other side. And I go stop the car. Immediately everybody gets down, runs. Oh, look at this beautiful waterfall. I'm like, hey, I want to come with you. Just because I'm driving doesn't mean I have to sit here, right? So I turn off, pull the key out. The key won't come out. I'm like, come on, give me the key. I want to run. It wouldn't give me the key. I said, okay, calm down, Venkat. What's going on? Why can't I get the key? And that's when I realized the car is not in park. Imagine it had given me the key. They would have seen a different kind of a fall. So again, think about users. What is their state of mind? And repetitive tasks lead us to bad practices. How many times do you see a pop-up dialog that says, bang, error, and it says something, and you have an OK button? Typically, what do people do? They call support and say, your product sucks, it doesn't work. Was there error message? No. Because they're not seeing it anymore. The first thing you do before the box comes up is your hand is waiting at the enter button. It comes up, bam, it's gone. Right? Because we are so used to it, we don't see it anymore. And in fact, you don't even realize it. If I tell you there was a box, you would say, no, there was none. And that's what happens. Repeatedly we do this and it becomes a practice. Know your users. I came across a guy who worked for NASA. He developed the application, and what astronauts do is when they come back from space, they debrief every department. And they came to the software division and said, please reduce the mouse click. And that's what's wrong with you? Well, mouses are good, isn't it? Well, that's good for you, mortals on Earth. I'm in space, I click on it, I'm 5 feet away because of zero gravity, and I got to pull myself back. So please, we don't think about these things, right? There was this story about Coke. Coke was interested in improving their sales in the Middle East. So their marketing manager said, I got a brilliant idea. There is this dude who is laying down, tired, almost going to die. He drinks a can of Coke. He's energetic and he runs. They published this, advertised it, the sales, boom, went down. Hey, what's going on? They forgot one thing. These guys read from right to left. Think about your users. This guy was healthy, drinks Coke, poor guy, about to die. Doesn't help your product. Let the users decide the pace of development. Don't force them to be fast. Don't force them to be slow. If you're using Windows, what do? You click on it and you wait for it to spin. And then I really don't understand. Why do you have to play a music when your box starts up? I don't get it. How many of you have a music with a ta-dang, it plays, right? You do? Why? Why do we need it? That's the first thing I turned off when I used Windows. I don't want you to tell me that you're booting up. Stupid computer, let me do my work. I can turn off my computer, flip open the monitor, I get to my work. I don't want you to play a music for me. I want you to say, you know what, I stay out of your way, go get your work done. On the same token, one thing I hate about Mac, you bring up the monitor, you enter the password 3 times wrong, and it just messes you up. It's the other extreme. Don't force me to be very fast. There are times I want to be slow because I'm doing something else while I'm trying to turn on the machine as well, so don't punish me for that. So don't rush me. We need to think about the locus of attention. Where is the user focusing? If you're going to change things around without the user's knowledge, it becomes very hard for them. It improves the chance of making mistakes. That's why even when you use Ajax, you got to be sure that you attract the user to say, hey, this has been modified here, so keep their attention. So I'm going to talk about 3 laws. The first law is called the Asimov law. And of course, in software, he talks about robotics. And one of the things he says is a robot should never injure a human being. Same thing with your applications. You should never hurt the human. And the second rule is you obey the order by the human being. How many times you sit there and say, damn it, do it, do it, do it. And the application crashes. Well, you got to carefully craft it so it takes your commands and does things for you. And the robot must protect its own existence as long as the other rules are not violated. So again, think about how you could do this. Fitt's law talks about, it takes the time it takes to select a target is proportional to the distance and inversely proportional to its size. So it depends on the size of the button you want to click on or the size of the checkbox you want to click on and how far you're going to go. The further you go, it takes more time. The smaller it is, it takes more time because now you got to focus and try to get to it. So these are the things we should think about. One of the goals is to minimize the time the application requires the user to spend. Then the user is happy because they got the work done. They can leave. And they can come back and get more work done with your application. Hick's law says the time to choose among options is proportional to the number of choices. I want to again mention product names. Look at menus in whatever form it is. On a menu, if you have 12 items versus only 2 items, which is going to take less time. The more choices you have, the more time you need to select from it. You end up wasting your time. So don't give users as many choices. People will tell you, well, we got to give a lot of choices to the users. Wrong, fundamentally wrong. You got to help the user get their work done, not give them more choices. The primary motive is, hey, I come in, I get my work done, I leave, I'm a happy user. So think about that. So the response time, 10 seconds is eternal. You call up a phone line, please hold, and there is blank. What do you do after 2 minutes? Or maybe 20 seconds? You hang up and redial. But instead you call them and they say, please hold, and they play a music for you. And then every 10 seconds they say, your call is important to us. Now you're like, sure, right? Because you're getting some response and you're happy to be with them for the next 30 minutes. So again, think about the response time. So make your application reliable. Make it faster. Make it easier to use. And I'm time out. Simple. It doesn't annoy the users and provide value. Then we have a chance of pleasing the users. Thank you.